We'll be speaking to voices both inside and outside of government, those who are currently in government and those who have been in government, to try and decode this final budget, the 10th one before the general elections of 2024, and what the hits and misses are of this budget 2024. I caught up with Hardeep Singh Puri, the Union Minister for Natural Gas and Petroleum, and also K.V. Subramaniam, who is the former Chief Economic Advisor. I do want to start off by asking you, Hardeep Singh Puri, this is the last budget of Modi Sarkar 2.0 before the elections. The opposition is saying it's lackluster, it doesn't have any big-ticket announcements. What is your takeaway? What are you going to tell the people of India as to what this budget means and how you have alleviated the lives of ordinary Indians in the last 10 years?
First of all, I would say to normal people, not those who have their brains in the wrong parts of their anatomy or have taken leave of common sense, that they should look at the 10-year track record of this government. If you lift 250 million people out of multidimensional poverty, if you produce 4 crore Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in Grameen and in the urban parts, if you are able to register even 50% of what this government has done, that would be a great story. So for the opposition to turn around and make a statement that this is a lackluster budget, I think they are either living in a world of their own, because today the Modi government has demonstrated. Let me give you one example of the urban sector. The total spend on 10 years of the previous government between 2004 and 14 was 1,57,000 crores. Today, in the 9 years, because all these schemes started in June 2015 to now, the spend is over 19 lakh crores, more than 11-12 times that. In the JNURM, this is the scheme of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana equivalent in the previous government. They produced in 10 years, they sanctioned 13 lakh units and they were only produced 8 lakhs. You compare those 8 lakhs with my 1 crore 19 lakhs. Isko chodiye. Come to our energy sector. The economy is booming. Our rate of growth today, if you look at a compilation of the, if you compile the rates of growth of all the economies in the world, you are the fastest growing economy. You are also growing your energy need. In the next 2 decades, 25% of the additional demand is going to come from India. Every day, 6 crore people go to the petrol bunk to fill up. There's never been any talk of shortage. You have ensured availability, affordability and sustainability. You have brought down prices in India of energy at the bunk in the last 2-3 years, where in the world they have gone up. And look at the green transition that we are making. Biofuels is a success story. This budget brings in mandatory blending of compressed biogas. So look at the Swanidhi scheme, one of the most vulnerable sections of society everywhere. So I would not take this. Opposition has to say something. I think instead of a lackluster budget, as they are calling it, it's a very lackluster and non-existent opposition. Frankly, my friend, I think we can do with a more credible opposition as somebody who can at least engage us in a debate. These guys, the minute they speak, they become irrelevant.
I do want to ask you about one of your ministries, which is petroleum and natural gas, and clearly it concerns our viewers a lot. And maybe this might be or might not be an off-budget announcement, but many viewers are also asking why they're paying $100 at the pump when global crude prices are below $80 a barrel.
First of all, let me say global crude prices are not below $80 and they're not paying 100 rupees at the bunk. In the BJP states, they're paying 96 rupees. And on diesel, they're paying about 80 rupees. This over 100 rupees comes from those who neither study their facts or happen to be in the opposition parties, and they never reduce their VAT. And therefore, in Rajasthan, it was when you had the Congress government, 108. In Kerala, it's that price. In all BJP states, it is below 100. So, number one. Number two, let me tell you the essence of pricing. We import 85% of the crude that we consume. In one day, we consume 5 million barrels. It's going to go up to 6 million and so on. And our rate of growth is 3 times of the global this thing. So, It is the cost of production, the cost of freight and transportation. My friend, you know what's happening in the Red Sea. If there is a disruption in the supply lines, the crude has to come through a longer route. If it comes through a longer route, it means more freight, more insurance charges. And yet the Modi government has kept the price down. Insofar as the prospects for reduction are concerned, you please tell those people, first of all, tell them to get their facts right. They're not paying over 100 rupees. It could come down provided there is no further escalation. The OMCs are making good, they've had good first 3 quarters. They will have a good 4th quarter at this rate. And we can hope that if the global turbulence is kept within limits, we have anxiety, no worry. There is a prospect going further, but that we don't make that determination. The central government only decides what the excise rate is. And Mr. Modi has on 2 occasions brought down the central excise in November 21 and May 2022.
I do want to ask you about one of your other ministries, which is housing. And while housing for the poor under PM Awas Yojana has been exemplary in this government, and it's now been further extended for another 2 crore homes, what about middle class homes? What about all of these stuck projects? Now, after COVID, particularly in the last couple of years, there is a question of price rise in the housing sector, particularly in the middle class and upper middle class sectors, where many are saying that prices have gone through the roof. They're not able to afford it. So what is the budget doing to address those concerns?
First of all, there are 3 separate things you've covered, my friend. One is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Is there going to be another focus for the middle class of the kind that you had in the CLSS, Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme and Interest Subvention? The answer is yes. The Finance Minister's announcement is very clear. What will be the precise details of the interest subvention scheme for the middle class? We'll find out. The second issue is the revival of the housing market in the private sector. That's a separate issue altogether. The stuck projects have been sorted out. Today, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, I appointed the Amitabh Kant committee. It made recommendations. Those recommendations have been more or less accepted by the UP government and I think the Haryana government, which were the main affected areas. And those stuck projects are being cleared. If property prices are going up, that's a sign of the buoyancy in the market. And it shows those who have the homes are very happy because their home is worth more. Obviously, those who are buying homes need to go in. But those people we look at through the affordable housing, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. We are also taking a lot of steps under affordable rental housing. And if we had more time, I'd happily sit with you and give you details of what we are doing in each of those segments.
All right. I wish we could have a longer, more elaborate chat sometime in the near future. Thank you very much in the meanwhile for joining us, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
To try and get an economic perspective to this, I'm now joined by the former Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. K.V. Subramaniam. Thank you very much, Mr. Subramaniam, for speaking with us. Our audiences, even the opposition, is making a big deal about this budget, that there was no big-ticket announcement. It was the last budget of Modi Sarkar 2.0. Has the Finance Minister missed a trick? How would you respond to that?
So I would use the acronym JNV to describe this budget. J for judicious, N for non-populist and V for visionary. It is judicious on the fiscal front. The fiscal deficit of 5.8% for this year compared to the budget estimate of 5.9% and 5.1% for the coming year, which is much higher than expectations. If you look at the non-populist part, I think that is consistent with the trend that this government has shown. Even in 2019, when I was part of the government, the PM Kisan, actually I viewed it as an economically sound measure, as has been proven by research by Pulak Ghosh, and a PhD student at the University of Chicago. So it is non-populist, and that's trend setting consistent with this government, and it's visionary, particularly because of 3 things. One, if you look at the capital expenditure increase, an 11.1% increase, which amounts to 1,11,000 crores, which is a large sum on the back of a 35% increase, in the last year. Second, the important, and I think to me this is a very visionary move, which is the 1 lakh crore, funding of zero interest rate 50-year loans for innovation and research. Yeah. I think that is a very important move, because if you would recall, in the 2020-21 economic survey, we had shown the areas that India needs to work in order to become a more innovative country. For the first time in 2020, India had broken into the top 50 countries in innovation. If India has to be a top 3 economy, then certainly we need to be in the top 10 in terms of innovation, and I think this particular move will particularly be visionary in providing momentum on that side.
I do want to talk about capex, and you said of course the big takeaway is an 11% increase, 11 lakh crores plus is the capital expenditure. But this is a government that's been in power for the last 10 years on the back of 2 big majorities, and some of the big ticket reforms, food, fertilizer, fuel subsidy. There is a recent study to show that we're pretty much, in absolute terms, pretty much at the same levels as we were 10 years ago. So why hasn't the government bitten that bullet and gone ahead for these big ticket reforms?
So, I think that is an incorrect number to say, because when you look at subsidies, you have to actually look at them as a percentage of GDP, and the fact that, even with a 11.1% increase in capital expenditure, the fiscal deficit number has actually being budgeted at 5.1% with very conservative, assumptions on nominal growth at just 10.5% and tax revenue growth at only 11.9%. In my opinion, actual tax revenue growth will be in excess of 13%. So I think that shows that clearly there's been expenditure compression, which also is indicative of many of the subsidies actually being rationalized. I think the major component of subsidy now is essentially food subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy has been rationalized far more. So I think it is incorrect to say that the subsidies remain where they are, because as a percentage of GDP, which is what you should be doing, because numbers in a larger economy, I think you have to normalize by the GDP. As a percentage of GDP, clearly that has declined. In fact,
one final word, Mr. Subramaniam. Implicit in what the finance minister said in a speech today is that they are hoping, and there's an expectation that the Modi government will come back for a 3rd term. If and when they do you see them touching the big untouched reforms, the big ticket reforms, whether it's labor reform, whether it's land reform, even agricultural reform, which the Modi government tried through the 3 farm laws, but they had to roll back those laws? Do you see any of those big ticket items being touched if the Modi government were to come back for a 3rd term?
On the labor reform, that has already been done. The legislation has been passed in Parliament, and that is where the maximum political capital gets invested when the bill is brought in Parliament. Now, what is left is actually it's in some sense the tail of the elephant, which is passing the subordinate legislation by coordinating across all the states. And I think that is an aspect that I would expect and also urge the government to do it to expedite as soon as it comes back to power, because that will make a big difference in contributing to Make in India. At the same time, when it comes to land and agriculture, my sense is that that will be left to the states to try and do. I think because it has been tried at the central level, and there was opposition to that. Unfortunately, so especially in the context of agricultural reform, I think it has certainly benefited the small farmers significantly. But be that as it may, now I think it will be left to the states to go ahead and do that.
All right, Mr. Subramaniam, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. K.V. Subramaniam, former Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. Thank you.